A very good morning to all the viewers and the webinar team. This is A. Ram Prasad, Principal, Telangana Model School, Ramachandrapuram, Sangareddy District. I have the privilege to introduce Mrs. Shaitaj Begum, Postgraduate Teacher in Political Science from Dhanwada, Naranpet District. She has a wonderful academic record and experience profile. She has conducted so many sessions for intermediate second year as well as first year. During these 3 or 4 months time, she has vast experience of teaching in various education institutions prior to joining model schools. She is the PGT from 2013 onwards in Telangana Model School, Dhanwada. The session which she is going to conduct is about India and the world. It's about the foreign policy and the relation between India and the world. Every country needs to have good relations with the neighbors and other countries of the world for development of their own nation and for development of other nations too. So we need to have cordial relations with one and all so that that influences the development of each country. Over to Mrs. Shaitaj Begum for her session on India and the world, the third session.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the words of honor and a brief introduction for my topic. Good morning, viewers. This is Shaitaj Begum, PGT Political Science from TSMS Dhanwada, Naranpet District. I am here again to conduct a very interesting and also, according to your examination point of view, a very important topic. So I am here to conduct session 3 of my earlier chapter, that is India and the world. Today, we are going to discuss the most important international organization, that is United Nations Organization. This organization or the questions related to this topic, they come up very often in your examination. So this topic is very important, not only as a citizen for you, not only as a citizen, you should know this. What is this international organization and what is its role in maintaining world's peace? But also from your examination point of view also, this topic is very important. So please pay attention and take your textbooks while you're attending the session, so that if you have any doubt, you can refer the textbook and you can just get back to the session and it will be easy for you to understand. Okay, students? Yes, as you can see here on the screen, this is giving you some words like politics, election, parties, diplomacy, government, candidates, law, isn't it? What are all these words, children, to which they are related? Yes, you're right. They are related to our subject, that is political science, isn't it? That is related to our subject. All these words are related to our subject, political science. So let's get started to our session. India and the world, session 3, and this is about United Nations Organization. Now in this session, students, we are going to discuss foundation of UNO, how it was established, why it was established, and purpose of UNO and principles of UNO, that is United Nations Organization. Now, before we start the session, let us just have a brief history about the origin of United Nations Organization. Now, as we are aware that the world has witnessed 2 world wars, isn't it? From 1914 to 1918, that was the period of First World War, and Second World War also we have witnessed, isn't it, children? 1939 to 45. Now, these 2 world wars, after the March, that is after post-World War, it was a beginning of new era for the countries which were involved in the war and also for the other countries. Why do you think so? This was named as World War, because almost all the countries of the world were involved in this war. So that is why World War. So this World War, it gave rise to emergence of 2 superpowers, Soviet Union and USA. Soviet Union and USA. These two superpowers, they have not only fought with each other in the world wars, but they were supported by different countries. They were supported by different countries. The world has witnessed a race of arms during this world war. Now, this war, that is especially the Second World War, it brought a lot of destruction to mankind. More than 12 million soldiers were killed and 25 million civilians, they were injured and they died out of hunger and many diseases. These were the negative results of the war. Of course, the war has negative results only, isn't it, children? Because war always brings destruction. War is not the solution for any problem. So as a positive consequence of World War II, United Nations organization was formed. The Allies, they thought that we need an international organization which would make all the nations learn the diplomatic relations, maintain diplomatic relations, and tackle the issues without violence. Without violence. And not only to tackle the issues and maintain diplomatic relations among the world nations, but this organization was also wanted to see that the world should not witness a third world war, because if at all we witness a third world war, the complete world is going to come to an end. So this was the main purpose why United Nations organization was formed, to maintain international peace and security, to maintain international peace and security. So this can be considered as a positive consequence of World War. Positive consequence of World War is formation of United Nations organization. The first international organization. The United Nations organization is an intergovernmental organization. It is an intergovernmental organization. Now, what is this intergovernmental organization? Created by a treaty wherein two or more nations are involved. Two or more nations are involved on issues of common interest. So United Nations organization is an intergovernmental organization wherein governments of two or more nations are involved. They come on common interest. They aim to preserve international peace and security while developing friendly relations between nations, and they want to achieve global cooperation and be the entity for coordinating the actions of nation. So the main thing why UNO was to save the world countries from the scourge of war, for maintenance of peace and international order. To promote international peace, this you have to remember, the main reason of formation of United Nations organization is to promote international peace. The United States, the Soviet Union, and the China founder members of this organization. Now here you can see the principal organs of United Nations. The United Nations, it functions with the help of different organs, and these are the 6 organs of United Nations. General Assembly, United Nations Economic and Social Council, United Nations Trusteeship Council. Currently, this organ is inactive. Why it is inactive? We will discuss this in this session. We'll discuss one after the other all the important organs through which the United Nations is functioning. Now, before we proceed, let us also know the important charters, the important declarations and conferences which were held, and as a result, we got United Nations Organization. The Atlantic Charter 1941, signed by Franklin Roosevelt, the then US President, and Winston Churchill, the then British Prime Minister. These two leaders enunciated certain principles such as right to self-determination, equal access to all nations to natural resources, freedom to use seas, disarmament, etc. So here, the main important thing here we have to discuss is about the Atlantic Charter, which was signed in 1941. Now, what was this? This was a document. The Atlantic Charter was a document. It is not a treaty. Students, remember, it is not a treaty. It is not an agreement. It was a document issued on August 14, 1941, that set out certain goals for the American and British after the World War II. They decided certain goals. They decided to set some goals for themselves after World War II. So it is a document which contained this set of goals, and it was signed by Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill. And what were the principles, important principles which were accommodated in this document? Right to self-determination, that is self-rule. Being an independent nation was the right of all the nation. Equal access to all nations to natural resources. No dominance of one nation over the other nation. Natural resources, they should have equal access to all. And freedom to use seas, and also disarmament. That is one of the important feature of non-aligned movement which we discussed in the previous session. That is abolition of nuclear weapons and conventional weapons, that is disarmament. So you can see here, students, this is the UN, United Nations Organization logo, and you can see here this is the flag. The same logo is printed on the flag. This is the flag of United Nations Organization, and this is the logo of United Nations Organization. Now let us discuss more about the Atlantic Charter. The Atlantic Charter was a joint declaration issued during the World War II, that is 1935 to 1945, is the period of Second World War, by the United States and Great Britain, that set out a vision for the post-World War. The Atlantic Charter was a joint declaration which was signed during the Second World War. By who? By United States and Great Britain, that is Franklin Roosevelt and also Winston Churchill. First announced on August 14, 1941, a group of 26 allied nations eventually pledged their support by January 1942. Initially, only few nations they supported, but afterwards, a group of 26 nations, they have extended their support to this Atlantic Charter. Among its major points were the nations tried to choose its own government, that is self-determination. That was a very important point of this charter. And easing of trade restrictions and a plea for post-war disarmament. That is also very important. Easing of trade restrictions and a request for post-war disarmament, that is complete abolition of using in weapons, nuclear weapons and conventional weapons. The document is considered, this is document, remember it is a document, it is not a treaty, it's neither a treaty nor a agreement. The document is considered one of the first key steps towards establishment of the United Nations in 1945. This document is considered as the key step towards the formation of United Nations. Now you can see here in this picture, here to my right, he is Winston Churchill, and to my left here in this, he is Franklin Roosevelt. Now here, these two, they have met and issued the Atlantic Charter. They have signed the Atlantic Charter. You can see here, it is a document. It is a document. Now let us discuss the brief points of Atlantic Charter. Now in this, no territorial gains were to be sought by the United States or the United Kingdom. That is territorial, you cannot control the other nation. No territorial gains after the Second World War. It should not claim any territorial gains. Territorial adjustments must be in accord with the wishes of the peoples concerned. All people had a right to self-determination. This is one of the important points in Atlantic Charter, right to self-determination, right to self-rule. Trade barriers were to be lowered. Trade barriers were to be lowered. There was a global economic cooperation and advancement of social welfare. Freedom from want and fear, that is fear of war, that should not be there. And freedom of seas, that is use of natural resources. Equality in using natural resources. Disarmament of aggressor nations. Post-war common disarmament. Aggressor nations means the nation being the first to attack the other nation. So such nations need to go for disarmament, need to go for abolition of complete nuclear weapons and also conventional weapons. So these were the important key points of Atlantic Charter. Now let us discuss the origin of United Nations more briefly. United Nations Organization, we can see here, it was established on 24th October 1945. 24th October is celebrated as United Nations Day. Where is the headquarters? Headquarters is in New York, USA. And now presently we have 193 member countries. India is an original member, that is among the first 50, India is present among the first 50 members. Now, as I told you, the United Nations is the result of many deliberations, that is many declarations and meetings, conferences. So one such we have on October 30, 1943, foreign ministers of the United States, Britain, Soviet Union and China adopted the Moscow Declaration, accepting necessity of an international organization based on the principle of sovereign equality of all peace-loving states. So the first was the Atlantic Charter. It was regarded as the first key towards the establishment of United Nations organization. After the Second World War, these nations, they felt the need that we should have an international organization which will help us to save from the scourge of war, and also it will help the nations to collaborate with each other and also helps them to develop economically and as well as socially. So the second declaration was Moscow Declaration, wherein United States, Britain, Soviet Union and China, they felt that we need the international organization should be there for all the peace-loving states. And in October 1944, the representatives of all these states, they met at Washington for preparing draft on the structure of the Security Council of United Nations Organization. What is Security Council? One of the principal organs of United Nations Organization. So these four countries' representatives, they met at Washington to prepare the draft on the structure of Security Council, A committee of jurists. What do you mean by jurists, students? Yes, judges or a person who is expert in law is called a jurist. A committee of jurists representing 44 states met at Washington for drafting the statute on the International Court of Justice. So a committee of how many judges? Almost representing 44 states met at Washington. Why? For drafting the statute on the International Court of Justice. What is statute? Written law or order. The delegates of 50 nations met at San Francisco from 25th April to 26 June to discuss the draft of Security Council and draft statute on International Court of Justice. So you can see here, United Nations formation is a series of deliberative efforts, different conventions, different conferences and meetings and discussions were held to form and to decide the structure of important organs of United Nations. The Charter of the present United Nations Organization and the Statute of International Court of Justice was ratified and signed after thorough discussions in the conference, which was held from 25th April to 26th June. The Charter of the present United Nations. Now, what is this charter? We will discuss now. I'll let you know. The charter came into force on 24th October 1945. That is the day of formation of United Nations Organization. By April 1946, the General Assembly, the Security Council, the International Court of Justice, and the Office of Secretary General began functioning. Now let us discuss what is this charter. Just now we have discussed that the charter has came into being on 24th October 1945. Now let us know what is this charter. The charter is the constitution of United Nations Organization. Constitution? Yes, like how every country in this world has a constitution, isn't it? Why do we have a constitution? What is constitution? Yes, it is a document which tells us the guiding rules, which tells us different laws, and which tells us how a country should be governed following different rules and regulations. So a country must have a constitution so that it can it can take the people to the welfare levels. And the citizen, it ensures the citizen the better living standards. So just like that, the charter is the constitution of United Nations Organization. What is charter, children? The constitution of United Nations Organization. It contains 111 articles and 19 chapters. It embodies the purpose and the main principles of the functionaries and organs of the United Nations Organization. Its preamble is the goal setter and the guiding spirit for the unity and solidarity of mankind. Like how a constitution has preamble. So because the charter also is the constitution of United Nations, its preamble of the charter, it is the goal setter and it is an example for the complete mankind, unity of mankind. So let us proceed to the preamble of the charter, what it is. Now here you can see this is the preamble of the charter, that is UNO. Here you can see here, we, the people of United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. So here it stands with we. Now after listening to it or after reading this, we the people, are you able to remind something? Yes, the Indian Constitution preamble also begins with we the people of India. So here we the people, it shows unity. It brings a sort of unity and integrity among the people. So here it states that the preamble of the UN, it states that it is determined to save the succeeding generations from the scourge of war. So not only working for the present generation, it also wants to continue the maintenance of peace, international peace and security, which is very important. Now let us discuss the aims and objectives of United Nations. We have discussed the origin of United Nations organization. We have discussed through how many deliberations, declarations, conferences we have brought United Nations organization. Let us discuss the main objective. One main objective is, yes, you're right, United Nations organization was formed to maintain international peace and security. So that is why this is the first key point, to keep peace throughout the world, to maintain peace, to develop friendly relations between nations. The next important objective of United Nations organization is to develop cordial and healthy and diplomatic relations between the nations, which is very necessary for maintaining world peace. To work together to help people live better lives, to eliminate poverty. Now you can see here, it is not the only objective of United Nations organization to maintain peace. That is not the only objective. Now you can see here, it has various economic and social objectives as well, like to help people have better living standards, to eliminate poverty, disease and illiteracy in the world, to stop environmental destruction. That means it is also taking measures to sort out environmental problems and to encourage respect for each other's rights and freedom. So United Nations is also concerned about the human rights, to be a center for helping nations achieve these aims. So these are the basic aims why United Nations was formed. United Nations was formed. Apart from that, United Nations also carry out different functions. It sorts out environmental issues, social issues, and in a short word, we can say that it targets all the global issues and tries to solve them peacefully, tries to suggest measures and tackle these problems. Now you can see here, these are the principal organs of United Nations: General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, International Court of Justice, and Secretariat. These are the 6 different principal organs through which the United Nations organization functions, carries out its functions. Let us discuss them one after the other briefly. First, let us discuss General Assembly. General Assembly is a principal legislative and deliberative organ of the United Nations organization. It is called the meeting venue of the world, because here you can see this is the picture of General Assembly of United Nations organization. It is called the meeting venue of the world. All the member countries, they discuss global issues here. So that is why it is called meeting venue of the world. At present, there are 193 member states of United Nations, and each member, that is each country, can send 5 delegates, that is 5 representatives, but enjoys the right of 1 vote or resolution. If a country is represented by 5 delegates in the meetings, that doesn't mean that they all 5 can vote on the resolution. It enjoys the right of 1 vote or resolution. Now, General Assembly, it can discuss, investigate, review, and supervise, and also recommend, criticize on overall meetings or overall view of United Nations organization. And General Assembly adopts all the international conventions. Now let us discuss the functions of General Assembly. It can discuss any matter affecting international peace and security, because all the member countries are present there in the meeting. It discusses any matter which affects the international peace, and security. It can also investigate, it can also review and supervise the matters. It passes the budget of United Nations organization. That is one of the major functions of General Assembly. It elects the 10 non-permanent members of Security Council. What is Security Council? One of the main organs of United Nations organization is Security Council. So the Security Council, 10 non-permanent members are elected by the General Assembly. It elects the members of ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council, and judges for the International Court of Justice. So the General Assembly also performs electoral functions. It participates in the election of Secretary General of United Nations. It admits new members in the United Nations on the recommendation of the Security Council. New member states, if they want to join United Nations organization, the General Assembly admits them on the recommendation of the Security Council. It receives and supervises reports of the Security Council and other organs of the United Nations. It receives the reports and supervises the overall functioning of United Nations organization. And it can also make necessary amendments to the charter if at all it is needed on the advice of the Security Council. Now let us proceed to the next important principal organ of United Nations organization, that is Security Council. Security Council is the executive organ of United Nations. The Security Council is the principal and executive organ of the United Nations organization. How many members does it have? It consists of 15 members. It consists of 15 member countries. 5 are big powers as they enjoy permanent status and veto power. Out of this 15, 5 member countries are enjoying veto power and they are permanent members of the Security Council. Now, what is this veto power? I'll tell you. The remaining 10 non-permanent members are elected for 2-year terms by the General Assembly. So it is one of the functions of electoral functions of General Assembly that it elects the 10 non-permanent members for Security Council on geographical basis. Remaining 5, they are the permanent members of the Security Council and they enjoy the veto power. The presidency of this Security Council rotates among the member states, that is among these 15, according to their alphabetical order for a term of 1 month. The Security Council is assisted by 3 standing committees. We don't have ad hoc committees, we have standing committees. So the Security Council is assisted by 3 standing committees. Now you can see here, these countries are the 5 permanent members of UN Security Council. China, France, USA, Russia, UK. What are those? China, France, USA, Russia, and UK. These 5 member states are the permanent members of UN Security Council and they enjoy the veto power. They enjoy the veto power in the Security Council. Now let us know what is veto power. Veto is a Latin word which means forbid, to stop, to say no. It is a power. What is this power? What to say no to what? It is a power granted only to the permanent members of United Nations Security Council to say no. To say no for what? For resolution. It allows a country to cancel permanently a proposal being passed in UN Security Council when even though all the other member states are in favor of it. Listen carefully. What is veto? It is a power granted only to the permanent members, only to the 5 permanent members. How many members we have in Security Council? Member states, not people. We are not talking about people here. Member means countries, member states. So out of this 15, 5 are permanent member countries and 10 are non-permanent, which are elected after every 2-year, per 2-year term by the General Assembly. So who are these 5 members? China, France, USA, Russia, and UK. So this veto power is given to these 5 permanent members. According to this, it can say no to the proposals. It can say no to the proposals which are formed or which are passed in the Security Council. Even if out of 5 permanent members, only 4 are in favor and 5th one is against any proposal, then the proposal will get cancelled. So all these 5 countries, all the permanent members should say yes, then only the proposals will be accepted in the Security Council. Out of this 5, even if one says no with the veto power, then the proposal gets cancelled. So this is called the veto power of these 5 permanent member states of United Nations Organization. Now you can see here, this will give you a brief explanation about the 5 permanent members who enjoys the veto power: China, France, Russia, UK and USA. Now 10 non-permanent members with 2-year terms. Now these, as I told you, these are elected by the General Assembly on geographical basis. You can see here 5, according to this, 5 belong to the Afro-Asian nations, 1 belong to the East Europe, 2 belong to the Latin America and West Europe, and 2 belong to the other nations. These are the how the 10 non-permanent members are elected. Now here you can see these are the 5 countries: India, Ireland, Kenya, Mexico and Norway. These are the newly elected non-permanent members for the 2021 to 22 term on the United Nations Security Council. These are recently elected non-permanent members for the United Nations Security Council for the term 2021 to 2022. Now let us discuss Security Council, the executive body. Security Council powers and functions. Powers and functions. The main function of the Security Council is to maintain international peace and security. To maintain international peace and security. To take military action against an aggressor. Against an aggressor. Who is an aggressor here? Aggressor means here the country which attacks another country first is called an aggressor. So according to the functions of Security Council, it can take action against it. To investigate any dispute or situation that may lead to international friction. It has the rights to investigate against any problem created among nations which may tamper the international peace. Recommend method to adjust or solve disputes, to recommend admissions of few new members. It is the function of the Security Council. It recommends the name of new members to the General Assembly. To recommend General Assembly appointment of Secretary General and together elect judges of International Court of Justice. So Security Council also performs certain electoral functions by electing the judges of International Court of Justice. Now let us discuss the third organ of UNO, that is Economic and Social Council. Economic and Social Council. The Economic and Social Council is an organ of special significance in the United Nations structure, particularly in economic, social, cultural, educational, health and human rights matters. It consists of how many members? It consists of 54 members who meet twice a year. ECOSOC, that is the Economic and Social Council, it carries out its functions in the form of numerous committees and commissions. Many committees and commissions are there so that the ECOSOC carries out its functions. The members are elected by the General Assembly. How are these 54 members elected? Yes, they are elected by the General Assembly on the recommendations of the Security Council. On recommendation of Security Council for a term of 3 years. Now you can see here these are the specialized agencies of United Nations Organization. World Health Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization, United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO, World Bank Group, International Telecommunication Union, World Intellectual Property Organization, World Tourism Organization, and World Trade Organization. These are some specialized agencies of United Nations Organization. The task and functions of ECOSOC, that is Economic and Social Council. Promotion of higher standards of living, employment, that is providing employment facilities, economic and social progress, solutions to international economic, social, and health problems. So this council is very important because it gives solutions to various international economic, social, and health problems. Now, various economic, social issues. What are the social issues? Global social issues, like overpopulation, poverty, gender inequality, childhood obesity, healthcare availability, alcohol abuse. All these are global social issues which needs to be tackled. So this council, it gives solutions to such social issues, not only social issues but also economic issues. Economic issues, recession, inflation, all these are economic issues. Food security, unemployment, global trade and investment. These are examples of certain economic global issues. So solutions to such issues can be given and tackled by ECOSOC. International cultural and educational cooperation, encouraging universal respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, concerns with academics, business sector representatives, and more than 2100 registered non-governmental organization. So it not only is concerned about the cultural and educational cooperation, but it also sought out various measures and explore ways to protect the human rights, It plays a very important role. It plays a very important role in the organization of programs, different programs of technical assistance to the underdeveloped nations. It gives technical assistance to the underdeveloped nations. Now let us discuss Trusteeship Council. Now what is this Trusteeship Council? Trusteeship Council has a duty of council, supervision, and preparation of trust territories for self-government. The 5 permanent members of the Security Council are the members of the Trusteeship Council. Those 5 permanent members who has the veto power of the Security Council, they are the members of the Trusteeship Council. And the headquarters of the Trusteeship Council is in New York. The Trusteeship Council, a non-self, what is this? A non-self-governing territory. A non-self-governing territory is placed under an administrative authority, by the Trusteeship Council, to supervise these territories and to lead them to get independence or for their self-governing. That is called Trusteeship Council. It was established to supervise the administrative of trust territories placed under the trusteeship system. Trust territories were the former colonies which were under the rule, which were colonized earlier and which did not have their self-governing system. So such colonies were established under the Trusteeship Council so that it can give them assistance for self-govern. Trusteeship Council guaranteed that appropriate measures were taken to prepare such territories for autonomy or independence, for self-rule or independence. Its operation was suspended on 1st November 1994 with the independence of Palau. I said that Trusteeship Council is inactive now. Because the objective why it was formed was completed with the independence of Palau. So since then, the trusteeship council was suspended. The operations of the trusteeship council was suspended. It is presently inactive. The International Court of Justice, one more important organ of United Nations Organization, International Court of Justice. The principal judicial organ of United Nations. Court means judicial, isn't it? Dispensing justice. It is the judicial organ of United Nations based in Hague, Netherlands. It functions as universal court for international law. International court, the name itself tells that it is a universal court and it functions for maintaining international law. It settles legal disputes submitted to it by states. It also provides advisory opinions on legal questions. The 15 judges are elected by the General Assembly for the term of 9 years. It has 15 judges and they are elected by the General Assembly for the term of 9 years. And they render judgments by relative majority. You can see here in this picture, it is a logo of International Court of Justice. Now let us discuss the structure and function of United Nations International Court of Justice. It is a principal international judicial body of United Nations. All United Nations member states are automatic parties to the International Court of Justice statute. That is, the laws which are maintained, which are framed, all the member states have to oblige them. The court may preside over cases brought to it by parties or may be asked to give advisory opinions relating to international laws. The cases which are brought to its notice can be solved by this International Court of Justice. Apart from that, it also provides advisory function, that is, giving advices when question of law arises to settle international disputes. No private disputes, only national disputes. Private dispute, that is, private disputes are not solved. Disputes between one nation and the other country. International issues are solved. Rulings are based on international conventions and treaties. 15 judges they sit in the court for taking judgments. Now, this is also one of the important principal organ of the United Nations, and the General Assembly, it determines the salary and allowances of these judges of International Court of Justice. Let us move to the last principal organ of United Nations organization, that is the Secretariat. The Secretariat is made up of an international staff working at United Nations headquarters in New York. Why does it work? To prevent conflicts or promote peaceful settlement of disputes between countries. The Secretariat, it is a principal administrative department of United Nations. Administrative department of the United Nations. It is headed by Secretary General. It is headed by the Secretary General appointed by General Assembly on the recommendation of Security Council for the term of 5 years. So this is the Secretariat is a principal administrative department. It is headed by the Secretary General, and the Secretary General is appointed by the General Assembly on the recommendations of Security Council, and he is appointed for the term of 5 years. 5 years. The staff of the Secretariat is appointed by him. Who is him here? Secretary General, chosen among the 192 member countries, 193 presently. He organizes conferences. It is the Secretary General who presides over the meetings of the Secretariat. That is, he organizes conferences, oversees peacekeeping operation drafts, reports on economic and social trends, prepares studies on human rights, mediates in international disputes, and prepares budget estimates. All member countries must abide by the policies and programs of the United Nations. Now, these are the functions of the Secretary General: to be the Chief Administrative Officer of the organization. That is, he brings to the attention of General Assembly and Security Council all the matters which threaten the international peace and security. He acts as a secretary to major delegate bodies of the United Nations. To perform functions assigned by the General Assembly and the other councils like Security Council and Economic and Social Councils. To make an annual report to the General Assembly on the work of the organization. Annual report is submitted to the General Assembly by the Secretary General of the Secretariat. And to appoint the Secretariat staff. It is the duty of the Secretary General to appoint the Secretariat staff. Now here you can see he is Antonio Guterres. He is the present Secretary General of the Secretariat, that is United Nations Organization. Now we have discussed all the main points or all the positive things of United Nations. Of course, it is the best international organization which has till now maintained its uniqueness by maintaining the international peace and security. But still, we need certain reforms in the United Nations organization. Let us discuss what are those. Democratization of the United Nations organization is possible by incorporating members from Asia, Africa, Latin America, Australia, and New Zealand. Due to decolonization, new states emerged on the world map. That is, new member countries from all these continents like Asia, Africa, Latin America must be given a chance to become the member states of United Nations organization. Creation of an independent peacekeeping force for the UNO, that is the need of the hour. United Nations organization does not have any military force, does not have any army in it. So there is a need for it to maintain a independent peacekeeping force. To increase the permanent members in the Security Council. How many members are there present in the Security Council? Permanent members, 5. So those permanent members should be increased, and in order to eliminate financial crunch and huge debt, the United Nations organization should have its own financing system. It should have its own financing system when it comes to the giving financial assistance to the underdeveloped nations. Abolition of veto power should be to the 5. Abolition of veto power should be given to the big 5. That is, veto power should be abolished and should be taken away by the big 5 countries. So these are the certain reforms which need to be brought in United Nations organization for its still efficient functioning. So in this chapter, in this session, we have discussed, children, United Nations organization, its origin, how it was formed, aims of United Nations organization, the charter of UNO, principal organs of UNO, General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, International Court of Justice, Secretariat, and functions of Secretary General. Hope so you have enjoyed the session. I request you to please go through the textbook to have a thorough understanding. Thank you all. Thank you everyone.
Thank you very much, Shaitaj Begum. It's a wonderful session. So it gives so many details about the setup at the national level as well as international.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Hope the students have got thorough understanding about United Nations functions and its organs. So looking forward for some more sessions and in-depth information about United Nations and the bodies under it. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day, sir.